Come learn with me in my kitchen, and I'll show you how to cook like a champion. They're like, so what position do you play? I go, well, fry cook, and I do grill cook too as well. And they're like, you're not a Packer player? Nope, drink stop, everyone went the other way. I'm like, wow, okay. So I don't know to be, it's a blessing. If I'm gonna be called anything, a Packer player is definitely a really good thing. So, yes, amen to that, amen to that. So before we get started, I just want to give you guys a little bit of meat and potatoes before you cook. How many people actually want to learn a little bit about cooking today? Awesome, I hope you do. So I like to share a little bit of my exercises with people because cooking can be challenging and it can be frustrating, correct? Yeah. Sometimes. So one of the main things that I like to do is give people advice from not only college, but life too as well. So one of the things I'm going to share with you is all my ingredients all measured out. They call this mise en place. Say it with me. Mise en place. Fancy French word, it just means I have everything all together. I'm ready to go. How many people go into the kitchen and they start cooking and they go, sugar, okay, let me go in the cabinet and get sugar. Okay, eggs, let me go and get, raise your hand if you're in the, I know there's somebody in there. That's Bad News Bears. No Bears fan in the house, is there? Okay, I know where it was going. All right. Oh, yeah, no. Well, I meant Bad News Bears like Yogi Bear, you know. There you go, that was the same. So the problem with that is when you're cooking, in order to have a good cooking experience, you want to be able to enjoy cooking. There's not a restaurant on this earth that's going to do prep and cook at the same time. So why do we do it at home? Because guess what happens? We don't have eggs, right? We're knocking on the neighbor's door. I know I'm not the only one, right? I'm like, again, Ace? So make sure you have everything ready to go so that you can go ahead and get started. The second thing I'll share with you is called recipe research. So that means when you're looking at a recipe online, research multiple recipes. Don't just pull the first recipe off because kids can upload a recipe to YouTube, you know that, right? So just because it's online does not mean that it's a good recipe. So I do a technique called visual motor rehearsal. Say it with me. Visual motor rehearsal. It's a fancy word for just basically saying I know how to control my imagination. Because you know when you visualize, that's all you're really doing. A lot of time when we get to the kitchen, we go into the kitchen and we're trying to read the recipe and cook at the same time. That's kind of like that don't prep and cook at the same time kind of deal. So what I do is I read the recipe, each and every ingredient, and I actually visualize it in my mind. I role play. So it says sugar. I'm in the kitchen. I'm putting in the sugar. So if there's any discrepancies within that recipe, you'll catch them before you start, and there it takes away all the stress. Well, not all the stress, but at least a lot of the stress. So one last thing that I'll share with you, and then we'll jump right into it. It's very, very important of your mindset when you guys are in the kitchen cooking. I cannot stress to you enough how important that is. We all know how powerful thoughts are, correct? Yep. Very, very powerful. And what I've learned over the years that what you constantly think about, you actually attract into your circle. So if you're running around, you're having a bad day, and all you're thinking about is how bad that day was, that day is not going to get any better, right? You have to immediately stop that thought right away and replace it with the positive thought. Now I understand that's very, very hard to do because we tend to sometimes how many people have upset themselves on their own just by thought? Just me, huh? A couple people? Okay, we're not admitting to nothing today. I get it. So that just shows how important that thought is. So as soon as that negative thought comes into your brain, you replace it with what? What you want to have happen. A lot of times we spend so much time, especially in the kitchen, concentrating on what we don't want to have happen. I don't want to burn it. I hope he likes it. I made it last week. He didn't like it. All these are negative thoughts that you have to replace. We need to learn to kind of become still, right? And take all that negative energy and place it where we want it to be, which is the whole concept is we need to concentrate on what we want. We need to concentrate on what we want to have happen. That's a good thing, correct? So when we're in the kitchen, even if you feel like you're lying to yourself, if you're not a good cook, how many great cooks are in the house today? Okay, that's okay, that's okay. How many good cooks in the house? All right. I always tell people, I always get people, they're always like, I'm not a good cook. And I'm like, well, how often do you cook? Well, I don't cook. Well, maybe that's the reason why you're not a good cook. And I'm sorry, cooking one time a month for 20 years does not classify you to have 20 years of cooking experience. You have to get into the kitchen and cook. And one of the most important things that I've learned with cooking is failing. When I started college, culinary arts at Fox Valley Tech, I was so scared to fail. What if I make something they don't like it? I kept second guessing myself. I was actually making my food worse by doing that because I was afraid. And we all know that fear is a hidden emotion that only exists if we allow it to exist, right? As soon as we walk through it, where does it go? Right behind us where it belongs. So no scary cats in the kitchen. My show is called Cook Like a Champion for a reason. When you guys watch the show, some of the stuff will look like, oh, I can't make that. But then that's that negative talk that I'm talking about, right? And a lot of people say they can't make it. I'm like, well, did you even read the ingredient? I just said bananas Foster's. Well, that's too hard. Well, it's only 4 ingredients. Okay. Martin Luther King said it best. You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step, right? So if the recipe says put sugar, get you some sugar, pour it in there. Now get you some milk, and then you go on, and the process is like that. And I'll just share with you the first and the last step. And the first step is visualization, which we talked about, right? Visualize your recipe before you do it. Yeah, that's on. And then the last step, guess what the last step to your perfect meal is? Eat it. Eat it. Well, you're done then. I'll give you a hint. Love it. Love. Love is the last step to your meal. And no, love is not an ingredient because I had a lady in my last class came and she's looking through my recipes. She said, Chef, where's the love at? She thought it was an actual spice called love that she can pick up at festival food. I'm like, no. The love comes from within. And I don't mean like love your food, like be conceited about it and tell everybody how great your dish is. I mean love what you're doing because I'm a firm believer that energy is all around us. So when we're cooking something, we have a good positive energy, all that's going to transfer over to the food and your guests are going to transfer over. That's why when you guys eat this food, you're going to feel like you want to dance a little bit because when I was making this, I had the music on, I was dancing, I was enjoying it, I was having a good time. And that's what cooking should be. Cooking should not be stress. We have enough stress in our lives, right, to have to go home and like, oh boy, now I have to cook for myself. Come on now, you're the most important thing in your body. You know, cooking for yourself should be the most important thing on your agenda. And if you can't cook, what do? Or watch a cooking show called Cook Like a Champion, right? So there's never really any excuse not to cook, only you just don't want to and don't want to admit it. And if that's the case, then just tell people, hey, look, I don't want to cook. Don't come to me, because I get a lot of clients that come to me, Ace, I really want to learn how to cook. And they don't. They just want me to cook for them. They just want to hang out. Which I'm fine with that. I mean, you're paying me, we can hang out. Anybody know the proper way to open up a banana? From the bottom. How'd you know?
Because that's what monkeys do.
I was going to say the same thing. You took my line. I saw it on YouTube. I said, man, I've been doing it wrong all these years. Yeah, and it just pops out just like so.
Looking to update your culinary skills? Watch Cook Like a Champion on a station near you.